You're listening to the Normal Isn't Necessary podcast, brought to you in part by the Gumballhead Sobriety Society and generous listeners just like you. For the latest updates, check out the link in our bio.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Back to the background sound. I have no idea where my Jabra headset is. It's somewhere in the car. But I had to hustle out the door this morning and get things moving. And was unable to look for it. I can't find it in the front seat, can't find it in the back seat. Haven't scoured the car exactly, but we're working on it. So, hope everybody had a great long weekend. It's Tuesday, the 1st of September, 2025, I believe. I'm sorry, it's the 2nd of September, 2025. Here we are, another day moving forward. Together Light and I were at it again this weekend. That's our live drive at 5-ish host. And we were working together again this weekend on our video game venture. And we were talking about, we just talked about the podcast a little bit. And just mentioned a few things. And another person that we were playing with on the video games. And mentioned that they were a former military veteran, or are a military veteran, and current active alcoholic. And we had started mentioning our podcast with Hobo with a Hilo and how his podcast is already changing the world, so to speak. And Hobo with a Hilo actually started a podcast. It's called Redcon 1. If you are following us on podcasts, you can go in and see who we follow. And go into our follower list. Take a look at Redcon 1. Hobo on a Hilo is doing a podcast over there. That's his own. We encouraged him to start his own podcast as a result of the interview that we had done with him. So if you get an opportunity to check that out, do so. It's pretty interesting. He's very transparent, talks about his experiences, and pretty lively when it comes to him talking. So a lot of the podcasts that are out there these days, either the information is great, huge, and important, and then there are some that are just dull and boring. And I have those podcasts as well. Normal Isn't Necessary podcast does hit on occasion. We have podcasts, people are just like, I'm really not interested in this one. That's great. We put out a ton of content. Please, if you don't like what you're listening to right now or listening to in one of our podcasts, give us another chance, especially in the Get to Know You series. Get to Know You series is a fantastic opportunity for you to get to know our listeners and check out our followers. So we strongly encourage people to do that. Go check it out. Go listen. And if not, then you can listen to any of our recordings, the Live Drive at 5-ish or the Road Rant series, which you're listening to now. This is our series where we drive into work in the morning and we just talk about things. And then the Live Drive at 5-ish, well, we never know what's going to happen on the way home. So sometimes we have guests, sometimes we don't. And, just kind of the way it works out. So it's a beautiful morning. It's 60 degrees here in Ohio. I have the air on in the car, but it's just because I haven't hit the off button yet. Quite yet. I'm motivated to do so, but I just don't want to let go of this nice summertime. Hoodies in the mornings, shorts all afternoon, and then jacket in the evening. It's the Midwestern weather, and that's why we stay here and why we live here, because we love that weather. So, traffic stopped, 275, and, stop and go traffic, as per the usual, but it's mostly because people aren't paying attention. So, if you guys are traveling on 275, it's too late because this recording has not been put out on the airways yet. But at least you can hear that 275 does get funky sometimes. Left quite a bit earlier than normal, and this traffic is a little bit different than the traffic I'm used to during the day. So just kind of keep an eye out. Today, I really don't have a ton to talk about aside from the fact that, I spoke to my wife this morning before I left for work, and I told her, I said, I need to sleep for like a week. I'm one of those people where when all the shit hits the fan, just kind of need some downtime and need to sleep. And I just, my soul's tired. And it's just because I feel sometimes as if all I do is give, and I'm not asking for anything in return. It's just, there are days where it's like, give, and then you get a text message at 7 o'clock in the morning. Hey, here's a reminder. Okay, well, I work at 8 o'clock, so why are you texting me off the clock? I don't have that work-life balance that I desire, but then when I do have it, it's just kind of, oh, okay. And if you think about it, we spend most of our lives working, and we get into a pattern, or we get into a mindset, or we get into processes that are continuances, and the nuance of that is the fact that we want to be reliable for our company, and we want to be, an upstanding employee, and we want to be an upstanding citizen in society. But sometimes when, people take that, there are days where we just want to step away from the world and not have to worry about anything outside of what's going on right now in our lives, and we just can't do it. I am in a career where there is on-call rotation, and sometimes they need me and sometimes they don't. It always seems like they need me when it's the most inconvenient time for me in my day-to-day, but it's just kind of awkward how things work out sometimes. And just push on, and it sucks. It sucks. I hate pushing through things. I hate saying push through it. But here's the gist of things. Whatever we do, whatever we choose to do, the type of person that we choose to become, we all have to, we put up that persona, and some people just naturally are like super cool people. Some people are naturally just chill and laid back, and some people are they're rock stars. And I've done the rock star status, and it was emotionally draining. It was soul killing, and I don't mind. When I'm in the confines of working hours, when I show up for work, I do everything I can to keep everybody happy during those hours of work start, work end, and then you think about it, it's like, okay, well, can you stick around a little bit later? Can you do this? Can you do that? And you give and give and give, and what do you get in return? You get a paycheck. Every once in a while, I get a compliment, which I enjoy. I appreciate the compliments, and my wife gives me compliments every single day. I'm so proud of what you're doing. You're working so hard. You're doing what you need to do to take care of your family and this and that. I love those responses from my wife. Those are the most meaningful, and I don't thrive on those. I feel like I do better when I hear those compliments, because we forget that we are human, and sometimes we just do things out of natural instinct. We don't do them with a plan or a goal. It just kind of happens. And sometimes we really have to reach deep into our pocket in order to make those things come to fruition. And we don't share those experiences with people. We don't tell people, hey, I really had to try hard today. I really had to do this today. I really had to do that today in order to make today come and go, And then there are days where we just say, I'm so tired, or I can't wait for the day to be over, or, there are just days where we have those days, and it's tough, it's difficult, and the older I get, the more I realize how important it has been in the past to just be home and be present for my family, and give less and less and less to the company that I work for. But how are you going to be successful if you don't show up every day? How are you going to be successful if you don't bend over backwards for everybody that you work with and pull rabbits out of your hat on a frequent basis? It's how do we feel? What defines your version of success? What do you need to be successful? Success for me a lot of times is being able to wake up in the morning, get dressed, and make it to work on time. Sometimes that's just success in itself. Sometimes, I strive and I work really hard on work lists. I do a lot of lists, a lot of, hey, this is what I set out to do today, and if I accomplish that list, well, I did everything I set out to do that day. And sometimes I add to a list. Sometimes I push those things on the list over to the next day. Sometimes I don't really have a choice. I had a big, long list of things that I wanted to do on Friday, and came to a situation where I wasn't able to do that list because other things interfered with me completing that list. Other tasks came up. For example, was working on one thing and found out that we had a leak in an apartment unit that I had to find. We had to make sure that leak didn't cause further damage as a result of, what was happening right now. We knew that there was damage, and we knew that there were an issue, but, turns out it was more and more and more. So it's difficult sometimes. It's difficult to find those things that we need to accomplish, and then we have to come in with a mindset of one thing, and then it turns into a completely different thing because we have to shift gears and go a different direction, and that's a struggle for some people, just because of the way our brains work, And then when we get out of work, we go home and we think about our job. We go home and we think about our day. We go home and we stress out about, I hope that was okay, or I hope this was this, or I hope this was that. And it's difficult sometimes, and I totally relate with that. I totally relate with that issue when it comes to stuff, and it sucks. It's harrowing, but we have to be diverse in our approach to things, and sometimes that in itself is difficult. Sometimes that in itself is a challenge, to be diversified in our abilities and in our approach to things because of the stuff that we want to get done and that we need to get done. Sometimes it's just a challenge. So, and I'm only saying this, I'm psyching myself up for the day, but on the other side of things, it's important to get people motivated to approach the day as if it were a brand new day, because every day is a brand new day. Every day is full of great opportunities and possibilities. Every day is a chance and an opportunity to be something that we've always strived to be, and overall, we strive to be this person. And if we continue to work on that every single day, then we do become that person. It's not like one day we wake up and say, hey, I'm an alcoholic. Same thing with, it's not like one day you wake up and you say, hey, I'm reliable and I'm dependable. It takes effort. It takes more effort for some people than it does for others. Some people can operate on 4 hours of sleep. Some people can operate on 8 hours of sleep. Some people need 10 hours of sleep a day. Some people only need an hour nap every once in a while. It just depends on who you are and how your body operates. It has all the things to do with the chemicals in your body. Recently spoke to somebody and went down a rabbit hole about the change from copper in houses to PVC in houses, and then it created the fact that they need to incorporate different chemicals into the plumbing in order to make the water drinkable over long periods of time. Copper is the best thing for us. Copper water pipes are the most important, they're important to us. They're important to our health and our safety. But it interacts with other chemicals out there. And when they removed the copper piping from plumbing and switched over to plastic, well, things got a little bit hairy, didn't they? Things changed a little bit. So, anyway, over time, we become who we need to become. Over time, we change and we approach those things that we need to overcome and capitalize on. We always push off those shitty things that we have on our list because we don't want to do them, or we don't want to be a part of that, or we don't want to accomplish that task as a result of the things that we've already done that day. It's easier to do all the easy things than it is to do the hard things. Start your list today with the hardest thing on your list and work from that. Work down to your easy things. Give yourself a reward at the end of the day. Be like, wow, okay, so the hard part's done. Let's get through the easy stuff and call it a day. That's what we need to do sometimes, and I encourage it. I tell you from the bottom of my heart, be diverse today. Try to work through that stuff. Try to make things a little bit easier for you by tackling the hard and difficult things today first thing, and work your way through until the easy things. And maybe give yourself a little opportunity to find some stuff that you're not familiar with. Find some confidence. Find some ability to overcome that adversity. Do that difficult, do that challenging thing first, and work through that. Work through those hard things, and then hit the easy things at the end of your day. Prioritize and categorize your tasks to where the things you don't want to do get done, and the things that don't need to be done can get pushed off in the event that something else comes up. And until our paths cross, stay strong, stay focused, stay sober. Much love. We'll see you soon.